I want to just kind of let you know that there's going to be two versions of this video. The video that you are currently seeing is going to be the one where I explain and have voiceover, but there's also going to be another video version of this posted at the same time where there's not going to be any talking, and that all of the voiceover that you would hear in this one is going to be just in the subtitles. So if you're interested in more of an ASMR type video, that is going to be available. I'll link it in the eye. But if you want to continue with this one, here we go. So hi, I'm Sydney. Welcome back to my Flock and Squawk, and we are going to be making a little Chappell Roan outfit for this doll. Last weekend, my fiance and I were doing our grocery shopping, and we decided to stop in at Goodwill, and I saw her, and I initially grabbed her just because she looked so kind. Like, I know that's kind of a funny thing, but I'm very hit and miss on dolls, and there's like a lot of gray area of what exactly about a doll that I like. Like, certain cloth dolls put me off, certain hard-bodied dolls and everything kind of put me off. It just sort of comes down to, like, not necessarily humanoid features, but like the uncanny valley divide. Like, there's sort of that line that's hard to find sometimes, but I just saw her and she just sort of read as very cute, very friendly to me. She was only $3, and I was carrying her around on the, like, through the store, and then on the ride home I was looking at her, and I just thought, she kind of looks like Chappell Roan. It's the kind of brown red hair, and I thought, you know what? I have some leftover of this blue glittery fabric from a few years ago when I did my Sailor Moon cosplay, and I thought I would just make her a little hot to go outfit because the blue sparkly is kind of reminiscent of that outfit, and her hair when she was performing hot to go, or currently performs hot to go with this outfit, is kind of more like curled big hair. So that's kind of where we are going with this. I've already made the outfit when doing this intro, so I hope you enjoy the making of, and then I'll check back in with you at the end. Here's a closer look at this little doll, and honestly, I think she is just so adorable, and like I said, just had that friendly look upon her face, and just in general, this doll is super cute, and it's like the right level for me. And I did this off camera, but I ended up using some tin foil to make this paper pattern, wrapped her in tin foil, used that to make like a template of what her body shape is. I cut that out onto some construction paper, and then I did another version where I kind of added in a little bit of the detailing of what I want for this Chappell Roan outfit. Obviously, I did not include seam allowance in that, so when I went to trace it, I added that. But I did this sort of prototype version that pulled just straight over her head, and I decided to change that for the final project. I used some stuff around my craft room, including some Christmas ribbon, which coincidentally kind of felt right for her. I guess you would call them pauldrons, like the gold elements on her shoulders. So here I get right into tracing out the pattern. Like I said, with the construction paper, that definitely makes it a little bit easier to trace. Construction paper is just so much more sturdy for doing this kind of thing. And then I just compared some of my scrap pieces to kind of see what would fit. And since this is for a doll, not necessarily a washable garment, I used some school glue, which is washable, but it just kind of helps secure the fashion fabric to this lining that I've decided to do. The glittery fabric just isn't very steady. It's a little bit difficult to sew with on a smaller scale, which I learned from my little tester to make sure that I could make one that fit. So I just also added some pins to make sure everything was secure, and then I sewed using a sewing machine. I debated sewing by hand, but going extra slow on my sewing machine seemed to do the trick. I did have to walk the needle quite a bit, which is where you turn the dial on your sewing machine so the needle goes very slow. But once I got the hang of it after a couple pieces, I was able to actually just kind of sew the pieces with minimal walking anymore. Now, it's not really a project unless you have a fuck up, And I was supposed to do a flip of one of those pieces to be one of the back pieces because I'm doing a center back closure, and I did two of the same, so I had to spend quite a bit of time seam ripping, and then my use of glue was a little bit of a pain, but it wasn't that bad. So I just went ahead, seam ripped, and re-sewed that entire side, and yeah. It's always fun to have a little flub up, but I like to share my mistakes and my frustrations with projects, and it wasn't that frustrating because it was such a small piece. Once all of the pieces were correct, I cut them out very close to the stitching because that initial tracing that I did does include the seam allowance. So here I have all of my nice shimmery pieces, and I'm just sort of playing around, getting a feel of how they will go together. Like I said, the back pieces are so that she can go in through the center back and it'll be closed there, as opposed to through the crotch or, you know, just all the possibilities that I had. After a play about, I decided that I should put the stars on before I fully assemble the piece, and I just used some very strong jewelry adhesive. It's basically E6000's cousin, B400 or something. But I just used, well, I attempted to use tweezers, which they did help a little bit with placement, but these star sequins were just kind of difficult to use. So I just used some glue on the stars and stuck them down the center front. Well, either side of the center front, like Chappell's outfit. Then, once I got all the stars done, I sewed the actual garment together. I guess I didn't share that or record it, but then I went in with some hand stitching to kind of finish all the little raw edges. I did hand stitching just because I thought it would be easier to do tiny rolled hem seams on all of the openings. So the neckline, the armholes, and the leg holes all got a little bit of hand stitching, and then down the back received a tiny bit just to make sure that the flaps would overlap perfectly and not be too much of an issue. Because I did a center back closure, I ended up using snaps like she has on her original dress, and because they were so tiny, I used some of the glue to hold them down, and once the glue was pretty much dry, I went in and I hand stitched the snaps actually secure to this outfit. I probably could have gotten away with the glue because she's not going to be roughly played with or washed. And then similarly with this sort of pauldron ribbon detail, I used some glue after I trimmed and fitted them to size, used a little bit of the glue, and then I went in and I hand stitched once the glue was mostly dry. That way I know it's fully secure, but the glue really was helpful as being like a basting stitch in a way. And because her arms were kind of loose from being at the thrift store, one even came off during a test fitting, I decided to stitch them back on because it's only the right thing to do. So I used a very large needle and some yarn, which meant that I had to bust out the multi-tool to get a grip on the needle and pull it through. But her arms are very secure now, and hopefully won't come off anytime soon. You can see her arms are perfectly attached once more. And now it's time to try on her little outfit and give the grand reveal. Oh, before the grand reveal, Chappell Roan has a little gold belt, so I'm using some Christmas ribbon that I have. It's not the most ideal belt, but it has a little of that extra golden flare like Chappell has. So I think that it was a usable option. Probably I would replace it later on with something a little bit closer to her actual outfit. But this little 69-cent bundle of ribbon, well, curling ribbon from back in the day, was a thrift store find that I think is coming in handy. And here you go, the final little outfit and me playing around, just having a great time seeing my work come together. I try to make her do the hot to go dance. She's just a little gal, and, you know, her belt was coming off at one point, so I had to adjust that. But tried to make her dance a little and just show her off for the camera. but I think she turned out really cute. So there you have it. That is how I made this little very simplified version of Chappell Roan's outfit, and I know that like she had a collar and whatnot and like different colored stars and boots obviously, but this is just sort of a simplified version of using things that I already had around the craft room. The only thing I got for this project specifically were the little star sequins, and I think it's really cute. How to make boots is definitely beyond me at this point, so maybe someday I will add more to her or make a different outfit. But I thought, this was a fun little thing just to do. I want to get back in my craft room a little bit more, and something like this just seemed like the perfect project to get into because I don't have to worry about fitting it to my body. I just have to worry about fitting it to a very simple doll body. But that is where we are at right now, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know just your thoughts in general. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Bye!